A waitress helped an old woman every morning. Until for bodyguards and her lawyers showed up every morning at 7 a.m. A tired but kind-hearted waitress named Lena served breakfast to an old woman who always sat in the corner booth. The woman wore the same faded coat, carried a small bag, and ordered only coffee and toast. Most customers ignored her, but Lena always smiled, refilled her cup for free, and sometimes even paid for her meal herself. One morning, the woman didn't come. Lena felt oddly worried. But the next day, the cafe's doors burst open for bodyguards entered, followed by 2 lawyers and a man in a suit holding an envelope. The entire cafe froze. Everyone stared as the old woman slowly walked in behind them, this time in an elegant dress and diamond earrings. Then the lawyers announced something that made Lena drop her tray in shock. Lena worked double shifts just to afford rent and take care of her little brother. Life wasn't easy, but she had a gift: kindness. Every morning before the rush began, an elderly woman named Margaret came in quietly, always sitting by the window. Her hands trembled as she held her cup, and her eyes carried years of loneliness. Other waiters avoided her, whispering that she was just another poor regular. But Lena didn't care. She always treated Margaret with warmth. She'd bring her an extra muffin or slip a small sandwich into a paper bag, saying, "You might need this later." The old woman would smile softly and whisper, "You remind me of my daughter." Over time, Lena learned little things. Margaret lived alone. Her husband had passed, and she had no family left. Some mornings, Lena even walked her halfway home, holding her arm when the road was slippery. Despite her own struggles, Lena never expected anything in return. To her, kindness was simple. It was what made life bearable. But one day, Margaret stopped coming. Lena waited, day after day. A week passed, and her heart grew heavy. She even asked around the neighborhood, but no one seemed to know who Margaret really was. Until one ordinary Tuesday morning, when everything changed. The cafe bell jingled, and the room went silent. 4 tall men in suits entered, scanning the place. Behind them, 2 lawyers stepped in, holding briefcases. Customers whispered nervously. Then, through the door came Margaret, but this time, she looked like royalty. Her hair was perfectly styled, and her once tattered coat was replaced by an elegant designer outfit. Lena froze. Was this the same woman she'd been serving coffee to for months? "Miss Lena Carter?" one of the lawyers asked. Lena hesitantly nodded, confused. Double quotes, "Mrs. Margaret DeLorme has requested to meet with you." The cafe's manager quickly stepped aside as the group surrounded Lena's table. Margaret smiled warmly. "I told you I'd see you again, dear." Lena's voice trembled. I don't understand." Margaret motioned to her lawyers. One opened a folder and placed an envelope on the table. "Mrs. DeLorme is the owner of DeLorme Enterprises, a chain of luxury hotels across the country. She's been undercover for several months, evaluating our service partners." Everyone gasped. Lena's knees almost gave way. Margaret continued softly, "But more than that, I wanted to remember what kindness feels like when no one's watching. And you reminded me." The lawyer handed Lena the envelope. Inside was a letter and a check, a staggering sum. Tears filled Lena's eyes as she read the letter. Margaret had written, "You gave without expecting. You saw me as a person, not a burden. That kind of heart deserves the world." The check was enough to pay off her debts, send her brother to college, and even start her own cafe. But that wasn't all. Margaret offered Lena a position managing one of her hotels, with full training and housing included. Lena couldn't believe it. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Why me?" Margaret smiled, holding her hand. "Because when the world looked away, you didn't." The entire cafe erupted in applause. Even the manager, who used to scold Lena for giving free refills, stood speechless. The story spread through town of a humble waitress whose compassion touched a hidden millionaire's heart. Months later, Lena stood outside her new cafe, Kind Cup Cafe, a place where everyone was welcome, rich or poor. A picture of her and Margaret hung on the wall with the quote, "Kindness doesn't cost much, but it can change everything." Lena looked at it every morning before opening the doors, whispering, "This one's for you, Margaret. If you believe kindness still exists in this world, share this story. Because sometimes the smallest act of compassion can lead to the biggest miracle."